For the first time in months, the Israeli Prime Minister and war criminal Netanyahu ordered the opening of the Rafah crossing for people to go out of the Gaza Strip into Egyptian territories. This move should have been taking place since the beginning of October, after the supposed ceasefire took place. But now Israel confirmed that after days of saying that, well, we might be opening the Rafah crossing. They're saying that they're not going to allow aid in through the Rafah crossing. It's still going to go through the Karm Abu Salim crossing that shares links between Egypt, Gaza, and Israeli territories, or 1948 occupied territories. But now they're opening the Rafah crossing. What do we understand by this opening and this move by Israel? Well, from the Israeli perspective, the official claim is they delayed opening the Rafah crossing because the Palestinian side delayed the release of the bodies of Israeli terrorists who were held in Gaza, despite the fact that they confirmed with the agreement that they will be opening the Rafah crossing. The reason that they're not saying that they are opening the Rafah crossing for the entry of goods from the Egyptian side into Gaza is primarily not to attract criticism from within that they are opening these borders with Egypt. Usually Israel delays any accomplishments to the Palestinian side to later stages when it comes to the ceasefire. They've done that previously many times, whether when it comes to withdrawal from certain locations or certain delays of things that they should have taken action with so that they can avoid internal criticism. It's likely that at one point aid will go in from Egypt through the Rafah crossing because there are thousands of trucks waiting to go in. The United Nations only, on its own, especially with the UNRWA organization, said that they have 6,000 trucks standing there waiting for months, waiting to go into the Gaza Strip with necessary medical aid and food for the Palestinian people. Despite this progress and this development, Israel is still breaching the ceasefire in Gaza on a daily basis, with now 360 martyrs and 922 wounded since the entry of this so-called ceasefire, with over 400 Israeli breaches. Netanyahu is struggling internally, and he doesn't want to show that he's giving anything to the Palestinian side. But as time goes by and as we get closer to what's called phase 2, where Israel will have even more concessions, Israel is showing indeed that there are certain things in the agreement that will start to get implemented. Now, that is linked with the greater developments in the region. There was a meeting that took place in Iran between the Turkish officials and the Iranian officials in relation to the developments in the region. And that meeting was very significant because later on during the day, Saudi officials went to Iran to follow up on that meeting. And between the Turkish side and the Iranian side, they vowed deeper cooperation and slammed Israel as the biggest threat. Israel was the main thing that they spoke about, primarily the foreign minister of Turkey, Haqqan Fidan, and the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi. They were talking about boosting developments with economic ties. The Turkish side was criticizing the sanctions that are imposed on or against Iran by the United States of America. And from an Iranian and Turkish perspective, they already have very good economic ties, but now they want to increase them even further. They're not talking too much about security and military ties. However, there is no denying that that was one of the things that they spoke about and that was underlying in that meeting, especially on how to deal with the expansionist Israeli ambitions in the region that they outright criticized and spoke about. Israel's expansionism in Lebanon, Israel's expansionism in Syria. Several figures in Israel were speaking about the need to have settlements in Lebanon, in Syria, and in Sinai. To this day, they're talking about that. But of course, they're trying to hide the real intentions behind these incursions that they're conducting in these areas. Every time, of course, it goes under the excuse of security. We want to protect our borders, but that always hides the real ambitions of Israel that were really and truly confirmed by none other than the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who said not long ago that he feels an affinity with the idea of the greater Israel. Later on in that meeting, Saudi officials, a top-ranking official from the Saudi Foreign Ministry, joined the meeting to follow up on the talks between the Turkish side and the Iranian side. There's a growing cooperation between the three countries, despite the differences between them in relation to foreign policy and the way they're dealing with the United States. Although Iran itself had an attempt with the United States, especially with the talks to do with nuclear enrichment that were followed by the attack of Israel against Iran. The foreign minister of Iran said that the US demand for zero enrichment killed the Oman-mediated talks. There were talks between the two countries in Oman and other parts too, before the Israeli attack back in June. And in those talks, the Iranian side said that we are willing to cooperate with you, because these talks are coming several years after Donald Trump unilaterally withdrew from the agreement that the United States itself had with Iran in relation to its nuclear program, with these unjust sanctions against the Iranian people. But when they went back to the talks, the United States started to demand things that are only Israeli demands: zero enrichment, getting rid of their strategic missile capabilities. And these things were obnoxious, they were ridiculous. And the Iranian side told them that there's not going to be a case where we're not going to enrich whatsoever or export our enrichment to a third country or buy enriched uranium. That's the thing that the United States wants on behalf of Israel, and also for expansionist American ambitions too, to stop any country from developing nuclear energy when they have thousands of nuclear warheads. That is coming with more statements from the Iranian leadership of the IRGC. We've heard several statements in recent weeks to do with Iranian preparations. There was a huge drill taking place by Iran for their military air defense systems, and also Air Force was Su-35s being seen used by the Iranian air forces, and they are clearly preparing for something big. And that would have been one of the things underlying in the conversations between the Iranian side, the Turkish side, and the Saudi side too, especially if Israel, backed by the United States, would be preparing a surprise attack against Iran. This time we had another confirmation coming from the Iranian army, with the words of one leading commander, that any miscalculation coming from Israel will cost them much more than what it cost them in the 12-day war. From the Iranian capabilities side, they have been increasing heavily with their military air force, with their naval drills, with their missile drills, with their drone drills, everything to do with Iran's air defense systems. And they've been also taking down groups within Iran, operating and taking more control over infiltration from the borders of Iran of people who sometimes work on behalf of Israel. They're clearly aware that there are preparations coming from Israel to have potentially a surprise attack against Iran. And one of the things that the leadership in Iran is talking about is also potentially having an advance attack against Israel before Israel surprises them with another all-out war backed by the United States of America.